Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We want to thank all of you for coming to tonight's board meeting for August the 28th, and we appreciate your patience this evening. Certainly hope that we will be able to get you out of here in a timely manner tonight, but thank you for being with us. The first item of business on our agenda is the prayer and Pledge of Allegiance. Dr. O'Connor, I believe you have an introduction for tonight. Yeah. Go and do the pledge first, please.
Thank you very much. It is my privilege to introduce someone very special tonight from Bell's Crossing, and his name is Landon Finley, the fine young man sitting there dressed in this lovely bow tie. And we have asked him to come to share the Pledge of Allegiance. And Landon is involved in the Student Council, the Battle of the Books team, and is admired by all of his teachers for his positive, caring demeanor. We thank you for being here, and if you would step up and lead us in the pledge, we would be honored.
Ladies and gentlemen, will you please stand?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, please remain standing for our prayer. Mrs. Morrison-Fair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. A wise and insightful gentleman said recently that we all play a significant part in the success of our children in Greenville County schools. Let us pray. Dear God, please be with the school board, the administrators, and other individuals here tonight. Guide us to act with wisdom, a common purpose, to advance public education by promoting student learning, protecting school safety, and serving as positive leaders for our community. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to allow for some moments of personal privilege to recognize individuals in the audience. Mrs. Levinus Wells, I believe you have someone.
Thank you, Chairman Sailors. First of all, I'd like to recognize the Chief of Police, Ken Miller, and his outstanding crew with him. I think y'all are going to make a presentation. Is that correct? If you would please go to the podium, we would greatly appreciate that. Terrence, yep, y'all go ahead. Go.
Try not to trip.
Yeah, try not to trip. I actually did that. I thought I'd add some excitement to the audience, and I was waiting for my man behind you to pick me up off the floor, but I didn't land on there. So
Thank you all so much. It's really our honor on behalf of the police department, really to recognize the school district for the support that you give us in reaching out to connect with children who are at risk, because we believe that through our efforts, many of the partners that we have with our gang reduction education and training program, our GREAT program, we, combined with all of our partners in the school district, can make a difference in these children's lives and help them grow up to be productive adults in our community. And it's so important that we reach and we connect with kids who are at risk. And each year now, for 3 years, I believe, the school district has pulled out all of the stops really to make that happen, make it a reality, from the facility over at Sterling School to transportation to even feeding the children, and that for a week-long program. And this year we had about 60 children enrolled, and we didn't dismiss any, so it was great. They all had a great time, and at the end of the week when they graduate, they want another week. So it speaks volumes for the program. It speaks volumes for the partnerships that are involved in pulling it all together. And I can't thank you enough. So we just wanted to recognize you with a small token of our appreciation, which is a plaque. And I guess Superintendent Royster, if you come forward.
Chief.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate it.
We appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you.
That was such a Kodak moment. Chief, thank you so much. We appreciate all that Greenville City Police Department does, not only for our community, but for our children, for the school district, and we appreciate the men and women in blue. Thank you. Stay safe. Also,
Mrs. Wells, you have a Boy Scout troop you'd like to recognize?
Yes, sir. Thank you. So Troop 715 from Messiah Lutheran Church is here. You guys want to stand up? All these guys are here working on their citizenship in the Community Merit Badge, and I am afraid, fellas, that we might not have any significant issue during our board meeting for you to talk about. So that is going to mean that we'll have to powwow after the meeting or at a troop meeting so we can maybe talk about some things you might see as an issue with education. But thank you for being here. Thank you for the leaders that are here with them and for making these, helping these young boys grow into great men. Thank you.
thank you, Ms. Wells. And there's a great representation from J.L. Mann, Hillcrest, Fisher. I mean, the list goes on at Simpsonville. And thank you, leaders, for bringing the young men to this meeting tonight. I would say this meeting won't last long, but every time I do, we are here till 11 o'clock at night. So I'm not going to say that. Are there any more guests that, educators in South Carolina? I mean, we've got everything. But at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Chairman Sailors.
Thank you, Ms. Levinus Wells. Ladies and gentlemen, every year the Greenville County School Board is recognized by the South Carolina School Board Association for professional development that we conduct and our members receive during the travels and workshops that we participate in. Tonight it's my honor to recognize two of our board members for achievements that they have received in the area of training and boardsmanship through our state association. At this time, I'd like to recognize Mr. Derek Lewis, who has achieved what we call Level 3 in our Boardsmanship Institute. Would you please come forward, Mr. Lewis? And also achieving Level 4, it's my pleasure to recognize Dr. Crystal Ball O'Connor. Dr. O'Connor? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. The next item of business in order is the adoption of the consent calendar. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion as stated, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Dr. Oyster, do you have any recognitions at this time as part of that move?
I do have a couple of recognitions. I don't believe they're actually in the approvals tonight, but they were approved at earlier meetings, but are with us tonight. First, I'd like to recognize Shane Kinney, who is the new assistant principal at Grove Elementary. And congratulations. Welcome to Grove. Do you have family members with you?
I do, my wife, Gal.
Glad to have you as well. Congratulations. We also have Jeremy Smith. Jeremy is joining us as the principal at Finney J. Fisher Middle School, coming to us from the state of Illinois. Welcome to Greenville County Schools, and we're glad to have you here and look forward to your leadership role at Finney J. Fisher as its second only principal in its history. Thank you very much. Congratulations and welcome.
Thank you very much. Now we move into the portion of our agenda, the appearance of visitors. We welcome those visitors who have signed up to speak this evening before the Board of Trustees, and thank you for your interest in Greenville County Schools. Before we begin, let me remind everyone of the following procedures. As each speaker's name is called, he or she shall proceed to the podium at the end of the board's dais, where there is a microphone and light system. Each speaker has up to 3 minutes to speak to the board. The light system will remain green for the first 2 minutes, yellow with 1 minute remaining, and red once your time is completed. In keeping with Board Policy KCA, abusive language and personal attacks aimed at students or staff members is not permitted. All speakers are expected to behave in an orderly and respectful manner. The board will not engage in discussion with the speaker or respond to comments. The superintendent will designate a member of the staff to respond to each speaker in an appropriate and timely manner. This evening we have one speaker who has joined us, Carolyn Smith. Ms. Smith, would you care to join us at the dais?
Good evening.
Is it working?
Okay. I'm a fairly new resident to Greenville, and after the June meeting, I was contacted and asked if I had a question. I was caught off guard by that question because I had numerous questions and identified them specifically over the past year and a half. However, I have reconsidered the question, and if I may, I would like to contact that person this week for clarification and or follow-up. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time and thank you for coming this evening. We'll now move into the items from our action items under, our superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Sailors. Good evening.
Good evening.
As many of us may recall, returning to school in our younger years after summer vacation, we were quite often called upon by the teacher to talk about what we did over the summer break. Well, as you know, for most people in the school district, there isn't really a summer break. It's just sort of a change-up. A little different kind of work, a little different structure to it, a lot of things going on, a lot of people involved in those things. So we want to talk a little bit tonight about what we did this summer. We'll start by looking at our summer hiring. We hired for 67 administrative positions, 596 teacher positions, 263 school classified positions, and 146 hourly work group employees. 1,072 employees were processed through human resources, beginning at the end of the spring going through the summer. Human Resources conducted 58 orientation sessions for new employees in the months of May to August to support the hiring of new administrators, teachers, aides, clerks, custodians, food service workers, substitutes, and after-school program employees. We held teacher job fairs, you recall, in the spring, Shining Stars, which was limited to GCS and our recruiting efforts, and Scout, which is a consortium of 8 upstate districts that hosted a spring recruitment effort. We also held 4 district-sponsored job fairs, and I believe there is actually one going on tonight in the district. We held those periodically throughout the year to recruit employees to the various jobs in the system. Financial training. The Summer Institute, we did student activity funds management, training on the Lawson system, billing, fixed assets, and procurement cards. Additional training, principal's operations meeting, new principal individual training, new bookkeeper training, and year-end procedures that was conducted in May. We also did destiny training for new assistant principals that handle the textbook management at the schools. Summer legal training in the First Amendment and freedom of speech, custody issues in education, Title IX and the Safe School Climate Act, employee leave and accommodations, discrimination and harassment of employees and students, religion in public schools, searches and questioning of students in the evolving 21st century, employee performance, improvement, and discipline. Operations and maintenance, cut 14,950 acres of grass when you consider the number of times they cut the 3,000 acres over the summer. They completed 7,455 work orders. They replaced almost 77,000 square feet of flooring and refinished the gym floor at 25 schools. As is customary, all our schools were cleaned from top to bottom. And within a warehouse division, they conducted the warehouse inventory as well as delivering numerous supplies to schools throughout the summer. Trainings within operations and maintenance, we did safety training, custodial college, which included floor care, carpet care, general cleaning, safety, HR issues, and more. Floor care and maintenance seminar by 3M for all plant engineers and head custodians, and we did heat training, particularly aimed for our grounds crews. Transportation, CDL training, which is an ongoing, basically year-round training process. It takes about 15 to 20 days to train a new driver. Gang recognition, active shooter training, railroad crossing training, danger zone recognition, mirror watch usage training, backing procedures, no electronic device usage training, emergency egress, driver tablet procedures, those are the electronic tablets in the buses, accident prevention. Our transportation call center made 28,573 phone calls to potential bus riders during the summer. Facilities and energy management completed and opened the Rudolph Gordon K-8 expansion, completed secure entry installations at 21 schools and centers, painted 11 locations totaling just over 1,062,000 square feet, completed LED lighting installation at 23 locations, replaced the HVAC systems at Fort Shoals and Bryson, did HVAC improvement projects at Ellen Woodside and League Academy, did a boiler replacement at Hughes, roof replacement at Duncan Chapel and Gateway, Greer High softball press box, new gym floor at Lake Forest Elementary, paving at Oakview Elementary and Serene Stadium, classroom renovation at Hollis Elementary School. Food and Nutrition Services provided over 95,000 free summer meals. Breakfast and lunch were served Monday through Thursday at 20 Greenville County Schools locations and 22 community sites. Our food trucks serve lunch at 11 sites daily. The 2018-19 menu was developed, selection and scheduling of USDA and food distribution shipments, recipe development and testing, where we involved more than 700 students in the testing of those new recipes, comprehensive nutritional analysis, food safety certification for 97 employees, manager and assistant manager in service for 195 employees, and culinary skills training for 120 employees. See an update of our student allergen database, including 1,200 students. We installed scanners at 12 schools for student ID badges, developed and distributed new free and reduced meal applications, installed 24 pieces of new kitchen equipment, prepared for $1 million of new equipment purchases, performed 700 hours of preventive maintenance, updated manuals, procedures, inventory databases, and the spec book. As you can see, a lot of work went into preparing for the opening of school among all these employee work groups. As we proceed into the next few weeks at the Committee of the Whole meeting in September, you will hear a report on the numerous teacher trainings and in-service and staff development activities that occurred during the course of the summer at the Summer Academy and at the Upstate Technology Institute and various other trainings that took place. But we're saving that to talk about during the Committee of the Whole, because as all of you know and recognize, we have teachers that work throughout the summer improving their skills, further developing their professionalism, working on curriculum, and doing numerous other tasks. That concludes my report for tonight. And again, we will share with you some additional information as we have the CAL in September. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Royster. Now we'll move into our action items, beginning with item number 6.01, the revision of Board Policy BBBA. Recommended motion coming from the Committee of the Whole is to accept the revision to Board Policy BBBA as presented. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you. Next item of business in order is item 6.02, the school renewal plans for 2018 to 2023. Again, motion coming from the Committee of the Whole requires no second, which is to approve the school's renewal plans for 2018 through 2023. Are there any questions? Mrs. Wells.
So just one, I've asked a couple of questions from some specific schools about how their process went, because I know we brought our strategic ed plan sort of late to the game, and then the schools had to react to that. So one thing, the feedback I got from a couple of people was that they didn't really have a lot of time with the plan, so they completed their plan, but they didn't really have as much time to review it as they liked. So I guess the question is, with the school's renewal plan, do they still have the opportunity to work on that this year, update it? And if so, does then that come back to the board, or does that, or not? Does it come back to the board for approval?
They can amend their plan annually, just like the district amends their plan. Dr. McCrary, is there a particular process for that that's different from our revision process?
No, sir. It's a living document. It should be a living document, so they can make changes at any time. It will come before you again in April, for April Cal.
Okay, great.
So we would include those at that time.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion as stated, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? And the motion carries. Next item of business in order is item number 6.03, the new lease agreement between the Greenville County, School District of Greenville County and the City of Greenville, Washington Center's Nature Trail. Recommended motion coming from Committee of the Whole is to approve a lease agreement between the School District and the City of Greenville for after-hours use of the Nature Trail area located at Washington Center for a period of 5 years beginning August of 2018. Are there any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion as stated, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item of business in order is item number 6.04, the renaming of the Wade Hampton High School track. There's a recommended motion from the administration. Mrs. Levinas Wells.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman Sailors. I would just like to say a few words about Coach Sam McCullough. He was the best and finest coach who touched thousands of students' lives, not only as a social studies teacher, but also as a football coach, a great track coach, as well as even coaching 1 year of girls soccer. It takes a man to coach girls soccer, and a very giving person who had never coached it before. He was quite a leader, very respected, not only by coaches, teachers, but students and parents. He was a positive influence on many. There has not been a date set for the naming, and that's why we're bringing it before you tonight to name the track and field facility after Coach Samuel McCullough.
Making the motion.
I would like to make a motion at this time to approve the naming of the Wade Hampton High School track for Mr. Sam McCullough. Thank you.
I have a motion that's been properly made. Is there a second? Second. I have a motion properly made and seconded. Any discussion? Mr. Meek.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to support this motion, although, once again, I don't see any support from the community members, such as the PTA, SIC, or parents. I did see letters of support from the athletic director, the principal, and a coach or two at the school. I would, once again, like to see some support from the community, and I know there are circumstances, and so I will support the motion tonight.
Thank you. Ms. Levinas Wells.
I'd also like to recognize Principal Eric Williams in the audience, and there were many there activities going on tonight where parents and students were unable to attend. But I will tell you that there were many parents that I spoke to, Mr. Meek, who were in favor. I got a couple of calls this evening before I came over here tonight that were very, very favorable. And I will tell you that Sam attended many events after his coaching career had come to a retirement stage, but he was very involved with Wade Hampton. As a Wade Hampton graduate, I cannot think of a better person for this field to be named after. Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion as stated, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Our next item of business in order is item 7.01, and the Internal Auditing Services Project Status Report. Mr. Barber, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. We're presenting our monthly status report of projects that we're currently working on. For the 2015 calendar year, we have one pending project. That's the fuel tank monitoring system. A revision was made to the report on August 1st, 2018, and we are waiting on final responses from the administration. For the 2017 calendar year, we have two pending projects. They are the Student Activity Fund's Extended Day Program and Food and Nutrition Services Audit. Both of those projects are 95% complete, and we're hopeful to be issuing reports on both of those projects in September 2018. For the 2018 calendar year, we have 5 pending projects. The one is the Student Activity Funds extended for fiscal year ended, June 30th, 2018, and employee work hours. Those projects are 75% and 80% complete respectively, and we're hopefully going to be issuing reports on both of those projects soon. The cash receipts and accounts receivable project is about 10% complete. We're completing the planning on that project, and the purchasing cards and credit cards and risk management projects we have not started yet, but hopefully we'll be starting the planning process on both of those projects. That completes my presentation, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Mr. Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Barber. Just a few clarifying questions. So, can we go back to the fuel tank monitoring system? So you can you repeat that for me? You presented a revised.
Yes, sir.
On August the 1st.
That's correct.
And so now the status of that is that we're waiting on the administration to respond
for final responses. Yes, sir.
Okay. Do we have more information on that,
I think
Dr. Royster?
Mr. Knotts might need to speak to that.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Dr. Royster. I've met with Mr. Barber several times to go over his revisions dated August 1st. We hope to have our responses to Mr. Barber, obviously, the latter part of this week or the beginning of next week, and with the hopes of presenting it to the board in September board meeting.
At the September board meeting?
Yes, sir. That's our plan.
Okay. Thank you. The next question is the Student Activity Fund's Extended Day Program. It's at 95%. So just I don't know what that means. So kind of what is missing, and kind of what would be a good estimated time for that to be complete from your department?
As a matter of fact, that package, which is about this high, was placed on my desk today.
Okay.
So we have the report. I have to go through all the work papers and review them and approve them. So we will be issuing that. It'll be early September.
Okay. And is there a link between that report and the employee work hour report? Or I know they're one audit came as a result of the other.
That's correct.
But you're not waiting on one to finish the other one.
No.
They're just one came as a result of what you found in the first audit. Is that
yes, sir?
Is that
that's correct?
And so, 80%. I mean, what do we expect that one to be done by the end of this calendar year?
Oh yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yes. Let's see. I'd say that should be end of September or October.
Okay. So I know that typically this is the time of year when the board is asked to provide recommendations for audits for the next calendar year. Is that?
We send that out in we send that out late October, early November normally.
Okay.
So that to get ideas for the calendar year audits
Okay.
for the next fiscal or next calendar year.
So when you look at the work that's left for your department to complete by the end of this calendar year, do you anticipate that this amount of work, the amount of work that's left, is it more than you think you'll have to do to get it all done by Christmas? Do you see gaps in here? Is there a need for the board to come up with some other audits that could be done the rest of this fiscal year? I mean, just give me an idea of.
Excuse me. That's certainly a possibility, depending upon how quickly they go. And if we get to that particular case, of course, I'll be bringing another audit request so that I can keep my employees busy. But that's certainly a possibility. Depends on, the sample that we select for the purchasing card and credit cards, and exactly the scope of the audit of the risk management.
Okay.
That's a completely new one, so that's going to be, the planning's going to have to be done very carefully on that.
Okay. So just to make sure I understood, because I think I understand what you're saying. So you think that all of these audits that are still outstanding will be completed by the end of this calendar year?
That's possible. We may carry them a little bit over into the next fiscal year, because and if it doesn't, I'll probably be asking for another project, because we added a project this year, the employee work order that was added. So since we don't present the plan until the January board meeting, we'll have all of January if this work doesn't carry us through January, I'll have to be asking for, I'll be asking for an approval of additional projects in November or December.
And so
I always have to look ahead and try to anticipate when we're going to finish, because we can only work on audits that's approved by the board.
So then I guess what I'm wondering is we have a scheduled solicitation of the board to give you ideas for projects in late October. Should we move that up so that we're not only giving you ideas for projects for next year, but are going ahead and giving you board recommended audits? Because the vehicle for us to recommend an audit to you is a board meeting, which wouldn't occur until the end of September. I mean, can we maybe explore moving up the request period?
Certainly, yeah.
So that we could get audits to you sooner, that maybe they could get on this year's docket, if not on next year's?
Certainly.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
I can send that email out earlier.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions of the auditor? Ms. Wells?
So with regard to audits that you're going to conduct, you did the extracurricular audits a couple of years ago. That was the one where you went to athletic events?
Yes, ma'am.
Kind of randomly. And I don't remember when we got that report. Was there an intent to repeat that after a certain period of time? It seems to me those kinds of things are the things that you'd like to see on some sort of cycle, 3 years, 5 years.
We do that. We've done that audit a number of times over the years. So we pick it up every couple years.
Okay.
It's
So,
just
but it's no specific. It's a 3-year cycle, 5-year cycle, 2-year cycle. What's the?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably been more like a 3-year cycle. We try to get out there so that we can show, have some exposure that we're out there and that we're looking at, those deposits to make sure that they actually go into the bank. So just try to keep everybody honest. We just show up unannounced, and it's but yeah, it's pretty much been, I believe, on a 3-year cycle.
So
3 to 4 years.
I know it seems to me like I've seen in the last couple of years a big shift away from having volunteers receive at the gate and take money at the gate and move towards having
Companies are doing it now,
do
yes,
that.
ma'am.
And so I guess my thinking is that since we've really shifted, even in the last 2 years, is that one of those things that maybe we need to pick up again? I mean, Dr. Royster, do you have a sense of that would be something that would be valuable?
Yes, ma'am, if I might speak to that for just a minute. I believe it was year, 18 months ago, Mr. Barber, Mr. Knotts, correct me if I'm off on this, we had a series of discussions with some fraud investigators and with our insurance carrier, and based on some things that we talked with them about, some observations that we had of other places, we talked with Mr. Barber, and he included a number of audits that had not traditionally been done that those experts believe would help to narrow the opportunity for fraud. Among them, the one that I think Mr. Barber did actually just this past year, where you all went out on site on a Friday night, on a Tuesday night, and actually looked at ticket reconciliation, receipts, real time, looked at it. There were a number of those recommendations. We would like to propose that those be considered to be continued and carried forward on a regular basis. And I think your point is good, particularly having, in many cases, shifted to a company that we're contracting with. It would be good to look at some of those in addition to only looking at circumstances where our personnel are selling tickets. And Mr. Barber may have looked at some companies that were doing that at the time he did those audits. I just don't recall. But there were several things in there that would have been somewhat deviation from past practice that we thought would be very effective in narrowing our exposure for the loss of cash.
And I guess right now we haven't really institutionalized those recommendations into our schedule of audits necessarily.
I'll let Mr. Barber speak to that, but I don't think necessarily institutionalized all of them.
You know, over the years, we've done that audit a number of times. I don't believe we've ever found any theft or fraud. If I'm not mistaken, maybe Mr. Knotts can help me, but I believe these companies now are guaranteeing that deposit based on the number of tickets that they sold. So, you know, with that, to me, our risk is greatly reduced.
Okay.
So now it's whatever the difference between those tickets are, they're going to put that money in the bank. They're going to guarantee that, if I'm not mistaken. So it seems like more and more schools are going to that. So with that, they're probably not doing some of the smaller events like middle school baseball and so forth, some of those things. Of course, the gates are very minimal. I mean, really, our biggest exposure and risk are football games.
Okay. Okay. That helps me for right now. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other questions, Mr. Barber? Hearing none, thank you, Rick. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Last item of business in order is the 8.01, any reports of our committees or liaisons. We just got started on several things. Mr. Lewis, you had a meeting earlier today. Would you like to share with that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the Advocacy Committee, which for those who are guests in the audience, is the committee of the board that looks at public policy and what recommendations we would make as a board either to state or federal office holders about policy changes, met today. And we had a couple of action items that we just wanted to inform the board about. One is the Advocacy Committee formed a subcommittee that Ms. Grayson will chair, and that subcommittee has been tasked with looking at policy recommendations around state and federal policy changes that could help improve our district's approach to school and student safety. So in a similar way to the Transportation Committee, this committee will be a subcommittee of the Advocacy Committee, but those meetings will be open to the entire board to come and hear discussions about possible state and federal changes that we may, as a board, want to take up as recommended policy changes to help our district. The second action item will actually come before the board in September, but just to discuss it here. In addition to the board's current policy positions, we've already prioritized things like the TIFs and special purpose districts, school safety, adequately funding the base student cost, and transportation as board priorities that we want to focus on this year in advocacy. It's our intent to add an additional one that will focus on state and federal policy recommendations around teacher recruitment and retention, which we hope not only will include teacher compensation, but other conversations about how we can adequately change state and federal regs to allow us to more adequately respond to recruitment and retention efforts of the district. So because that's a change to our plank, that will actually come as an agenda item at the September board meeting. The other two things that we did agree to schedule in the future that you'll get an email about, because we ran out of time to actually schedule them, is we've committed in the fall to schedule regional breakfasts or meetings with our legislative delegation. So instead of having them all come to one event like we did in a few years past, we'll try to split those up into a few regional meetings. So Pam Mills will get out some dates on behalf of the Advocacy Committee for those, and of course everyone on the board is invited to attend those. We also plan to schedule a single meeting with the school board and the entire county council as kind of a follow-up to the great conversation we had last year with them, and that one also will be scheduled at some time in the future. Thank you.
Ms. Wells, would you like to comment on this past weekend's activities?
Yes, sir, I would. For those of you who attended the legal conference that South Carolina School Board Association put on this weekend, I know you, like me, found some really great information. There was a little bit of overload in a couple of the sessions, thinking about all the different legislative actions that were taken and all the implications for policy changes that we need to make. So I think that's something we need to make sure we all follow up on together. Great things about online speech and students' speech, students' right to have that opportunity to say what they believe and what that looks like for us, and protecting that. So that was really interesting for us. As a aside, we have to say thank you to Doug Webb, our own legal counsel, who annually goes, presents, and as Mr. Lewis said, a lot of times we get down there and if we ask a question of someone, well, hey, what do you think about this? The first thing they'll say back to us is, well, what does Doug Webb say about that? So either Doug has them trained or he's really that smart. So I appreciate the legal counsel that we have. Just as a reminder, we also have the regional meetings of the State School Board Association, which will be taking place at Hillcrest on September 5th. If you have not registered yet, today was the deadline. You can probably shoot Tammy an email tonight, and she can slide you in there tomorrow. But those last year were really effective in helping us work with neighboring school districts and kind of create some more synergy around local issues and ways that we can all improve education across district lines. So I encourage you, if you haven't signed up for that, to try to get signed up for that and attend that at Hillcrest. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Meek.
I do not have a committee report.
Yes, sir.
But I do have a question for the superintendent.
Please.
Or a concern, I guess. You sent us out an email this week talking about a problem at one of our elementary schools, a recurring problem. And you recall it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I was trying to capture the recurring part.
Well, it's recurring. I think this is the second or third time that I'm aware of it since we built the school, and I think we have a situation there that I think you need to put some more attention to find out what the cause is and correct that.
We'll gladly do that. I'm not aware that it's a recurring issue, but we'll certainly check into that. I know we had a recurring issue at that particular middle school.
No, at that elementary school.
Yes,
Ms. Bush probably remembers well, too.
We'll certainly check on that.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else? Mr. Meek, would you like to make a motion?
I sure would. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
That was rapid fire. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion as stated, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We're adjourned. Thank you very much.